Well, that picture you said that Mom sent Todd on his birthday, who was very interested. He was reading World War II books, and he was quite impressed that his grandfather was.
That was taken, as I remember, Dave, down in
You were standing on a cobblestone street.
one of the villages in France.
Well, Mom said, well, this was when Papa was in the Battle of the Bulge. And that was the first I'd ever heard of that.
No, that was not in the Battle of the Bulge. That was taken.
Well, I watched the movie Patton.
Yeah.
That's all I know about.
Well,
I know that McAuliffe was somewhere, and he was cut off, and Patton had to supposedly made a 3-day run, night and day.
Yeah.
To rescue. Were you with the Patton's army on the rescue mission?
No, not on that. At that point, see, that picture was taken. We were with the Third Army at that point. We were down at the Battle of Brest, and which is not in Normandy but in Brittany.
Mm-hmm.
And we were still with Patton. Now you have to understand about Patton. Patton moved very fast. In other words, the Germans would see Patton coming, and they'd spread out in the woods, and then Patton would be way ahead, and then the Germans would come back out, see? And of course, Patton was considered quite a hero, but they were isolated. And the infantry then had to come in and do a lot of fighting to get in there. And that after the Battle of Brest, of course by that time, see, we were the Third Army, but Patton was moving fast toward Paris. So the Battle of Brest was supposed to have been over maybe a week, but that's where the German U-boat base was, and it took a lot longer, considerably longer. So by the time it was over, and as a matter of fact, they never really did until after I think the war was over. There were still some of these Germans hiding out down there in the Battle of Brest. But Patton by this time was up near Paris, so we had to go like crazy to catch up to him. And then we were in Orleans, which was outside of Paris, which is the home of Napoleon. And I always remember, because you'd go into one place and it was Napoleon on his horse, but his finger pointed at a whorehouse. And
we had dinner at a restaurant called the Lion d'Or.
That's right.
In Orleans.
Mm-hmm. But so we were outside of Paris in Orleans for probably about a week, and I always remember because it was like a day like today. We never had our boots off, and we never were dry.
Mm.
But the thing is that we didn't have to blow our nose either, the
human body really in condition.
Mm-hmm. But then we were put into the Ninth Army at some point in time that I've kind of forgotten, and we thought, oh, this is the... See, we thought it was going to be over fast, and so did the government and the Army. And that's why we did not have, that's why when we were at Paris, we did not have overshoes, things like that, because they thought it was going to be over. And it turned out we went through a winter, of course, and but we went with the Ninth Army. We thought, oh, that's going to be the Occupation Army. Well, as it turned out,
who was in charge of the Ninth Army?
Simpson?
It was Simpson, because well, no, he was, but then we were put under Montgomery. We did not like that. Yeah, because we were up in the northern flanks, and we were put under Montgomery. Boy, we did not like that.
Well, he and Hyde didn't get along.
No,
did they?
We and Montgomery didn't get along. But anyhow,
well, Patton was a tough nut.
That was a tough nut. With your blood and my guts.
Did you ever see him?
Who? Patton. Only once in England, and of course one thing, he was very strict, and you had to wear your the ODs they call them, which were the olive drab, the wool shirts and so on. You had to be in the tie.
Oh, we have one.
And
I'll show that.
I have to give him credit. I mean, there wasn't going to be any sloppy joes around under Patton, but We didn't like it at the time, but when you really analyze it, he was right, you know. Because the American soldier was not noted in England for being too disciplinary. He'd be leaning against the wall in Manchester or wherever he was, you know, and so on. And they kind of thought we were.
Is that Papa's?
That's Uncle Bob.
That's what they
Uncle
call it.
Bob.
That's Olive Drab.
And you talk about good wool. They used to wash these.
it,
They'd
and
wash
they
it for us,
couldn't
yeah.
in
The
those
French
days
women,
wash
the
wool.
German women, and in France, you know, they get down, they beat them with a rock. Yeah.
Yep.
They do that in India too.
Wait, your basic job as, were you called a corpsman?
Well,
Was that, you know,
No,
did you
I
wear
don't-
the Red Cross and on your
well,
helmet
no,
and so on?
we did not, if we went out at night, so as a result, we didn't wear the Red Cross at all, because it was hard to detect whether it was an MP or the Red Cross as far as the Germans were concerned, and they take a shot at you. Now, if we were going into the Pacific, we'd never wear the Red Cross, because the Japs' theory
Use
was,
those
if
to
they
target
knocked out
practice?
a medical
Oh,
foreman,
yeah.
then he couldn't help a wounded
The wounded.
soldier, see? Oh, they're lovely
Well,
people.
I know that that picture that Mom sent, you were wearing just a regular helmet. You didn't have a Red Cross or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
So you know your basic job was to help wounded from the battlefield, or
We were field hospital.
I feel you were like a MASH unit, like we see on TV, or
Well,
what?
I don't know if they were an evacuation hospital, but you had we were the first field hospital that back from where they would pick up the wounded.
I see.
And then when I say field hospital, evacuation hospital, but in the field. And then they'd go back to a general hospital. There was another one in between there that I remember, but like from if you were even in Paris, that far into the continent, a general hospital would go back to England. Then as you got into Germany, the general hospital would move into Paris, you know.
So you did the initial work as they came off the field, right?
Yeah, the major work. The
Wow.
the so-called corpsmen, I mean, that were right in the fighting with them in the infantry or wherever. They would put them on litters, put them in ambulances, bring them back to us, but they tape them up, so to speak, before.
Tell them about the age when the buzz bombs came in.
Well, that's when Eddie Klinowski and I went in. This was the starting of the Battle of the Bulge, and
In Belgium.
we didn't realize this, but in Liège, Belgium, Eddie Klinowski and I, we went in for an afternoon, and we found a place where we could, well, prior to this particular place, there were a couple of what we call buzz bombs. They were the V1s, and they were kind of landing near us, and we hadn't heard this before. We'd had them go over us because we were in a rest area. That's in Belgium, because Liège is in Belgium. We were in kind of an apple orchard or some sort of an orchard, and they were going over us, but they were going on to England, say. But we knew the noise of the V1, and
This V1 was one of our planes?
no,
V1
it was a German. It was
German
really
rocket.
the start of the rockets of today,
Then
because
they developed the
V2. The V2 was the rocket, and we heard they would go 1,800 miles an hour. We thought that's crazy, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And that was what we have today.
So theirs
now on
were
the
faster than ours were at that point?
Oh yeah, we didn't have. See, they were the first. The Germans were the first with the jets. We didn't even know. We could hear this noise. What is that? You know. Somebody said, I think that's a jet. What's a jet? You know.
Well, see, the beginnings of the space program in the United States was simply due to the fact that that we got better German scientists than the Russians got better German scientists.
Yeah, that was the
Who
question.
got,
Who got the best?
who got the
German,
best
you know?
scientists? You know, we had Werner von Braun, you know, who was a
Okay.
rocket scientist.
But the,
What you
but anyhow, Ed and I, we found a place where they used to call Biff Tech and La Pomfret. It was a place we went in for lunch, and well, you know what I'm talking about, beefsteak and French
French
fried
fries.
chicken. And so we had lunch, you know, and we were having a good time, and then we went, found a place that we heard about. It was on the top of this building, like it was, I mean, a 7-story building. We were on the top, and we were sitting there having a drink. You could look down, there's a swimming pool down there. Oh, it was a beautiful setup, as I remember. But by this time, these V1s, they're getting in a little closer. Well, I said to Ed, I said, I don't know, I don't think we should be up here anyway. We're sitting up pretty high. So we got down. By this time, they're coming in closer, and there was an MP on the street, and he said, if I were you guys, I'd get out of here. He said, if I could, I would. Well, by this time, it was starting to get dark. And we went over to catch a tram. The tram was like 2 streetcars stuck together, you know. And now it's really dark. And these V1s are going through like Le Bon Marché, which would be like, say, Marshall Field or Hudson's or any of these department stores. It's going between them, and the flames are shooting out like maybe 50, 60 feet. See, we were that close to them. And boom, and they had a tremendous concussion. And all these kids from the University of Le Bon Marché, I mean in Liège, they're all around Ed and I. We're soldiers, see? Well, our knees were probably rumbling as much as theirs. And you couldn't get on a tram, you couldn't get out of there, and we really thought we were stuck. Well, we finally did, and we got out, and
Oh my God.
and then trying to walk in the dark, and we didn't know where we were, and you go up to a farmhouse, you know, and nobody would answer, and you couldn't blame them, see? So we finally got back to the darn orchard, you know, and then that was the beginning. What happened was there was a teacher, a teacher in one of the schools in Liège that was directing the Germans where to ship. They
Always
shoot
a
these V1s.
spy, huh?
They first started in like they were hitting a graveyard and so on, but they were narrowing in, and as the day went on, they got in closer and closer. So,
Oh my God.
yeah. So anyway, Bob, getting back to India.
Oh, God.
Really?
I don't think I could.
Well, you ended up going across the river into Germany, obviously.
Yeah, well, you see, we got into, well, let's see, in Liège, of course, we got into Vals, Holland, which was, it was like a suburb of Aachen, Germany. There's a lot of people in Vals working.
It's kind of like Camden, Detroit.
Yeah,
Well, you know,
Red
once you
Cross.
got out of France, went into Germany, what was this?
Well, we got out of
19
France and went into Belgium.
Was this 1944, 1945?
Maybe 1944, wasn't it?
44.
Yeah.
45, I would.
Well, let's see, when was
No,
the-
he came home in 45. He
I
was
No, I
there.
came home
The
46.
war ended in the middle of 45.
I came home
Yeah,
in
but you know,
46.
April of 45 was when.
When was what was D-Day? 1944, wasn't it?
Well, VE Day was 1945.
Yeah, well, then,
Like in
this
June
was,
or something.
this was, had to still be in oh yeah, it had to be in 1944 because Christmas hadn't occurred at
Yeah.
that point. And
He had 2 Christmases.
we were in
Overseas.
Vals, Holland, which was very close to Aachen, Germany, which is just across the border. And that was when there was this one tank, and they kept that tank going around the block 24 hours a day because the Germans could hear it, and they didn't know if it was one tank or 100,000 tanks, you know. And God help that guy if he got out of that tank and didn't have a foul.
But I need gasoline.
But you want to tell a story about how you used to dip your cigarette lighter in the Jeep tanks.
Well, that was kind of common with the good old Zippo lighter, and boy, it was lucky if you'd hold it between your fingers, you didn't drop it
Didn't
in the
drop
tank.
it.
Yeah, right.
But that
Why'd
thing
you
would run
do
on.
that?
Well, you could fill it. That thing would run on anything.
You
And of
could
course,
get lighter fluid, you know, for if
and you
you
could take
smoke.
the cap off the gasoline
What a-
tank in the Jeep, and you'd put the thing down and fill it up, and put the
A
cap
good ad for Sipple.
Did you,
Right?
did,
They
you
did a
get,
good job.
did you get all the cigarettes that you could smoke? Were they prevalent, or would you?
Yeah, well, we had one going overseas. Our shipping number was 1909 BB, and the Camel was offering like 1 million cigarettes or something in 1909 BB1, you know. And of course, the Red Cross, they were going to take over, see, and they took our cigarettes. Well, then we would go through the chow line, and do you need any? And we'd take them and throw them down at their feet because we weren't accepting cigarettes if they were going to give them to us. See, we had won them, and but we did. We had all the cigarettes eventually that we could get. And guys smoked cigars. They got the cigars, and sometimes you'd exchange. You know, you'd give the guy your cigars for his cigarettes and all that.
So Mom was talking about a time when you were outwitting the Germans. What was that?
Outwitting the Germans.
Wow.
What were you talking about, Mom?
When he was living,
No, when he was outwitting the Germans, you were saying? There was a story you wanted him to...
no, I remember the time he, after the war, when he had the horses and so forth.
Oh,
that he
well.
was,
I
And
don't
it was
remember
part of
outwitting the
the-
Germans. I know
There
that
was
we.
something that you wanted to talk about.
oh, that's it, when they ran the
Oh, the
tank
tank
around.
around.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we did have some what they called the Hitler Youth, and which they were fanatics, you know, like the SS. We had some SS we took as prisoners.
Oh,
And
really?
we had those in the back hospital, and I remember this one kid, he's probably 18 years old now, he kept talking about, he was lying on his back, he was wounded, and he talked about their, I'm trying to think about the weapon, anyway, it's something that was gonna, you know,
A super
Take
weapon.
care
super
of
weapon,
everything,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And secret weapon, I guess you might call it. And geez, we couldn't get it out of him. And this captain, he's standing over, you know, he's got one of these knives in his hand.
Oh.
You know, he's kind of waving over this kid, you know, and he finally disclosed what it was, and it made sense, that they were going to put gas in the B-1s. And boy, that kind of
Okay.
shook us up.
Nerve gas or killing gas.
Because when it got near the end, we figured that the Germans were going to, that is, the powers to be, because they were all a bunch of nuts anyway, and they were going to, as the last resort, they were going to use gas. So they called us out at 10 o'clock one night, and they said, you know, this is what we think that is going to happen. And being in the medical, it would just be catastrophic, for God's sake. And be sure you have your gas masks, et cetera, et cetera. Well, fortunately, they didn't do it. But they figured the powers to be in the Army thought, like that they were fanatical enough. They weren't concerned about the population. They were concerned about themselves.
winning the
and
war.
They, you know, spelled gas.
Well, you know, Mom has this shadow box with all the things that you collected.
Yeah, he doesn't like that.
Was that when you were on your way to Berlin, when you were going through?
Well, I never got to Berlin.
You never got to Berlin?
We got up almost to the Elbe River. See, the Russians were on the other side, and we were on this end. We had to have a natural boundary. We did. Our troops, when I say we, our troops did cross the Elbe, and they were told to come back because we had to have a natural boundary. They weren't too sure what they looked like. They weren't too sure what we looked like.
Oh, the
So
Russians.
we may be shooting each other.
Oh, yeah.
And so our troops were told to come back. The Elbe River was going to be the boundary. And what was the question?
When did you collect all these iron crosses and
yeah,
swastikas?
as I say, we never got into Berlin. that could have been the occupation forces got into Berlin.
But
These were things that I got along the way, you know.
from German soldiers.
Yeah, the dead
Yeah.
ones, they gave them to it, they said, here, you take this.
He didn't like that, yeah. But how unusual, Bob, I'd never heard that we didn't, you know, our men didn't come over there after the war, you know, after the E-Day. Isn't that what
Didn't
you
come
said?
over where?
To you.
Oh, no, I was thinking we get a lot of help because they'll funnel all that firepower to it.
yeah.
But they
Yeah.
all went home and they started sending guys from our theater home too. So,
Yeah, well, see,
you know,
this,
like,
They
so
just
in
kinda-
August, see, I think the war ended like in June
yeah.
44 or something. About that time, they dropped something called the atomic bomb.
Yeah, that was in
I can
September.
remember, I was flying
August
the
45.
hump at the time when I heard about
Yeah,
it.
August
Yeah.
45.
And they said they dropped an atomic bomb, and I'm saying to myself,
It was the
what the heck
21st
is
of
a-
August.
an
It's about a
atomic
week
bomb?
away from anniversary time.
You're right, because I was going to INE staff school in Paris, and we were in a lecture auditorium, and there were tremendous big doors, I remember, you know, when the atom is big, and the doors opened, some guy, they dropped the atom bomb.
Well, what's the atom bomb? I said to myself.
That's what I said. The guy next to me, he says, I don't know, but he says, I think it's the size of a golf ball, blows up everything. So, and boy, were we happy. See?
Yeah.
Now, you talk to some of these younger people today, and they say, well, this was terrible, this was wrong.
Yeah.
We could have lost 1 million men if
Trying to
we
attack
could have
Japan, right.
gone into
Yeah.
Japan.
Well, I think
So-
Truman has gone down in history as,
He
you know,
has,
as saving,
Yeah.
you
Boy,
know,
were we happy.
literally millions
And
of
then we
men.
walked around, of course, I was in Paris for, the day after VE Day, you might say. So I had a chance to see them celebrating and so on. Well, they weren't celebrating it wasn't up to them to celebrate when this happened. But boy, we were celebrating. We could see the headlines in French on the paper. We knew something, you know, we could see atom bomb. That was kind of universal.
Well, you didn't get into Germany. If I have my facts straight, didn't you after April of 45? Didn't you kind of become a procurement officer?
Well, no,
You
I was
know,
sent to, I was sent to INE. Bob, let's have another break.
One
Turn it
more.
off and then we'll continue.
Okay.
The pause
I
that
mean-
refreshes.